welcome back to Big Blonde and Beautiful, the podcast. If you're new here, my name's Kara, and each week I pick a piece with fat representation in it, and I talk about whether or not I think it's positive or negative. This week, we're going to be talking about the series This Is Us. But before we get into that, I have my guest with me today, Alyssa Theobalt. I should have asked before. Theobalt?
No, you did it perfect.
So Alyssa is one of the 3 hosts of the Fab Fatties podcast. She's also a content creator herself, focusing on candidly navigating the world as a fat woman. She uses her platform to talk about things from the toxicity of diet culture to the importance of taking up space. And I'm very excited to have you here, so thank you.
Oh my gosh, what a fantastic intro. Thank you. I'm ooh, let me take some notes for my own bio. Well, thank you.
No problem. So I had Allie on for Parks and Rec, who's also a host of your podcast. And so I started following you guys around the same time. But one thing that I noticed in your Instagram is that you talk also a lot about dance and how important dance is to you. And I was also a dancer growing up. And I don't really do it now. But when I was talking to Allie about it, she's like, you guys could talk about that because we have similar experiences with it.
I have found that a lot of folks have very similar experiences in the performing arts spaces, and things that they've learned about their body through, growing up. Yeah.
I took tap and jazz and hip hop off and on for 11 years. And at one point I stopped doing dance to do basketball because my mom was a single mom. She's like, you got to pick one. I can't take you to both. So you got to pick. So I picked basketball, but then I stopped doing it after a couple years. And I was like, I should get back into dance. But then in my head, I was like, but I need to lose weight first and get into a certain physique for it. And that never happened. And finally I was just like, that's not going to happen. I should just go for it. And I really wish that I hadn't waited the 2 or 3 years that I did and would have just started dancing.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to me, especially if I think about myself growing up. I did not see anyone who looked like me as a dance teacher in my dance classes. I did not see anyone like me on So You Think You Can Dance or Dancing with the Stars or any of the mainstream dance shows that I was watching. So I completely understand that message. When you don't see anyone who looks like you in the space, you already don't feel welcome.
Yeah. I was lucky that one studio that I went to was super nice. They never brought my weight into it or anything. But the unfortunate thing is also they don't make costumes for people my size. And so I actually had to buy 2 costumes, pay for both, and then also pay for someone to alter them and make it into one costume. So expensive. not
expensive, not accessible at all, and extremely exclusive. And it really honestly goes against everything that the art stands for.
Yeah.
And it's really a shame.
I was like, we have to talk about dance at least for a second because we both grew up doing that. And I've also grew up doing community theater too. So
that's where I have found my most inclusive belonging has been in theater.
There are still times where I'm like, we could do better for sure. But
100%.
Yeah, but compared to the dance world, so much more inclusive. And also when you were talking about representation growing up, I'm like, I feel like the only representation I had was Abby Lee Miller at one point.
Yeah. She's made to be the villain.
Yeah, true.
Abby Lee is the villain of Dance Moms, Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, crazy. But so this week, like I said, we're talking about This Is Us. And in case you guys haven't watched it or even heard about it, so it's a 6-season series and it's kind of got a very complex storyline. So honestly, I don't know how long this podcast episode will be. If it's really long, I'll split it into 2 parts. We'll see what happens. But first, I'm going to give a little synopsis of the beginning of the show and how it sort of starts, just to give the audience a little insight into what we're going to be talking about. Jack and his wife who is pregnant with triplets, have just moved into their new home in Pittsburgh. Successful and handsome television actor Kevin is growing increasingly bored with his bachelor lifestyle. Randall, who was abandoned at a fire station by his father as an infant, is a stylish New York-based businessman working to raise 2 daughters with his wife, Beth. These people are among a group, several of whom share a birthday, of seemingly random individuals whose lives intertwine in unexpected ways. And I just realized, does that synopsis not mention Kate? Because I
It
got it
doesn't
off the
sound like
internet.
it does.
Okay, well, Kate is also in there. I guess I didn't proofread that. So she's the sister of Kevin and Randall. And I don't know, I think she lives in Los Angeles in the show. I'm not sure if she moves or anything, but I'm pretty sure she lives in LA because she lives close to Kevin, who's her twin brother.
Mm-hmm.
She goes through a lot of different things with like being single and being fat and just like living life as a fat person. So how dare Google not mention Kate?
I'm like, ooh, telling. Google's showing itself.
Yeah, and honestly, every single one of the characters is important to the show. I wouldn't say that there's one that's more important. So that's crazy that they don't mention her. So I kind of wanted to start off talking more in depth about the pilot, and then we can like be more broad with the rest of it, just because the pilot sets up the show. So if you remember the pilot, the first time we see Kate, she's looking in the fridge and she has written on sticky notes, "Don't eat this, this is bad, throw this out." And she has like one on her cake for her 36th birthday. And she's like, it says, "Save this for your party, love, Kate." And then she takes a sticky note off and then it says, "I'm serious." Amethyst and flowers on the table. Is it real or a fable? Well, I suppose a friend is a friend, and we all know how this will end. You suck. And so that's the first time we see her. So it's already set up that she has problems with her weight and food, or she believes that she has these issues. So that's an interesting setup already. Thoughts on that, if any?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts about this show, and I think first and foremost, when I started watching, this was a show that I could not continue watching because it was too emotional for me.
I could see how it could be that.
It was too much where I like was so emotional every single show, and I was like, this is not fun for me. Like I can't be crying like this over a TV show. I 100% remember the first time I was watching Kate on TV. I was like, oh, they're gonna show my life on TV.
Yeah.
And like
how accurately are they gonna show it? Or type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think especially with the scene in her in the fridge, I think there's a little bit of like, oh, well, here they go, showing a fat person struggling with food. And then another part of me is like, well, yeah, I think fat people do have a complex relationship with food, not because of what people assume, though.
Yeah.
Which is fat people eat themselves to being fat, you know, but more so of like, I think we have moralized food and our choices so much, and it really speaks that like diet culture, you know?
I mean, she literally writes, "This is bad food." Like, not because it's spoiled, it's because it's considered unhealthy. So she's giving different types of food different moral, like, I don't know, weight. And so
values.
Yeah, and which is what society does. It's like, oh, I've been bad today. I hate when people say that. I try so hard to nicely be like, no, it's okay. you just enjoyed this and it's fine. And it's, I don't know. It's complex. And
it is so complex. And one of my favorite things that I have learned in eating disorder recovery. I'm recovering from atypical anorexia, which is basically just a restrictive eating disorder. And I have learned that, like, when people are in my space and they're like, oh, like, gotta walk extra steps today to earn my cookie or whatever, I'm like, that's so sad for you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes,
actually taking a moment being like, that's really sad that you're thinking about that. Or I'll even be like, oh, I'm so glad I don't think about that anymore. Because I feel like people say it without even thinking, because it's so normalized.
Yeah, absolutely. Even people that don't necessarily struggle with weight or like body image too much. I mean, I feel like there's always a little bit of issues with that just because of how much, especially women's bodies, are like commercialized. I feel like there's no way that any woman has never thought like that they need to lose weight or look a different way. Kate's character in the first episode, especially, honestly, the first season is very focused on her journey with her body and weight and food, because then like another scene from that first episode that really sticks in my mind is when she's going to check her weight and she takes every
in the bathroom
clothing, takes her earrings out, and is like about to step on the scale, and then she steps on it wrong and like falls down and hurts her ankle. And then she calls her brother to come and like sit there with her, and she's like, this is a new low, because she's icing her foot with ice cream because she doesn't have ice, but she has ice cream in her freezer. And yeah, it's a whole thing. Chimney swift that finds me, be my keeper, silhouette of a cedar. What is that song you sing for the dead? What is that song? Kate?
Yeah. You didn't have any ice, so.
Oh, this is a low point. We're 36. I had this whole dream life that I envisioned for myself. A real career. And I would marry a man like Dad. I would be a mom like Mom. But look at me, Kev. Like I ate my dream life away.
That is the most impactful scene, I think, that has stuck with me from the time that I've watched This Is Us. I just remember relating to that feeling so much. And I just remember it being like extremely emotional to watch.
Yeah.
Of like the process of getting on the scale and like wanting to be so hopeful. And yeah.
I mean, I still, when I go to the doctor's office and I get weighed, I take everything out of my pockets. So, I mean, it's just like ingrained in my brain. And then she has her brother who's like this superstar with like an 8-pack, honestly, of abs. And he's like, I would say, a pretty standard definition of beauty and masculinity for men. Trying to comfort her, which he can't relate to how she's feeling. And then she's like, tell me to do this, tell me to do this, tell me to lose the weight. And he kind of hesitates.
Listen, what do you want me to say to you, huh? Give me the magic phrase, sis, to say to make you feel better, and I'll say it.
Tell me to quit feeling sorry for myself. I don't know. Tell me to wake the hell up. Tell me to lose the damn weight.
Quit feeling sorry for yourself. All right, that can start right now. Wake the hell up. And you know, what was the third thing?
Lose the damn weight.
You want to say that again?
I'm gonna lose the damn weight.
But like, I can kind of relate to that in a sense, because I have a brother who I literally don't want to give him a big head. He doesn't listen to this podcast anyway, but he's a conventionally attractive white man. He goes to the gym a lot. So he never understood it. And also on top of that, he has cystic fibrosis, which part of it affects the digestive system. So he has to eat like exponentially more calories just to maintain his weight. And so growing up, I saw that where he got to eat literally anything he wanted. He had a whole cabinet full of all types of snacks. And here I am, like, eating 100 calorie snacks, like trying to lose weight and stuff. And so he never really got it. So I very much kind of relate to their dynamic. Although I will say I feel like Kevin is a little bit more empathetic than my brother was and is about it. But I relate to that.
I think the age also comes into play because I don't know how old they are at the start of the show, but they're not young.
No, I think they're 36, I think.
I was going to say,
birthday.
definitely in our 30s, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think age can be a factor in that too. And yeah, gosh.
Because that's true, because there is a scene when they're in like their late teens or early 20s where it's not in the pilot, but they're like having a dinner for like their mom or something. They've gotten together for some reason, and she's gained weight since her father passed. And both Randall and Kevin look at her unintentionally like, whoa, this is bad, type of thing. And of course she sees it. And she's like, at one point tells them like, I saw how you were looking at me, type of thing. So yeah, that's true. I'm sure the age and maturing, although I don't know if I would consider Kevin very mature, especially in the beginning of the series, but
100%.
He goes through his stuff. He's kind of a...
Yeah, but I think his love for his siblings was always like really apparent.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like his love for Kate, I feel him and Randall, I don't know. I mean, definitely near the end, it got way better, but they definitely had some jealousy going on there, which is an interesting dynamic. Kate has that moment with the scale, and then we see her go to like, what's it called? Like a support group for fat people who want to lose weight. And that's the start of her story. So very focused on weight, which I know I you mentioned it earlier, like, yes, fat people, we do tend to go through that, but then it's also like sometimes I don't want to see that in a TV show, but I honestly feel like they kind of did right by her character, because as the series progresses, it's not as focused on her weight. I feel like after the first season, we kind of see her like start to focus on other things like family more, and her career and things like that. And so I do appreciate that they don't just like constantly just bombard us with her trying to lose weight and things like that.
Yeah, I feel like this is when like what your podcast is doing is so important, is talking about representation all in media. And we need more, because Kate's story is important, and so many fat people can relate to the struggle of restriction and diet to diet and family members judging the way they look and what they're eating. Like everything Kate went through, I'm like, oh, I have experienced this firsthand. But it also would be so awesome to have a character on screen who is fat and their story has nothing to do with their weight. They just exist.
Exactly. Because I mean, I go through a lot of days where I don't even like think about it. And there was a time where that was not true, and that I was very focused on my body and the way clothes looked on me and this and that. And some days that happens now. I feel like when I feel like I'm at my most confident is when things come back and I'm like, okay, I still got work to do. I agree that like I don't know, there's got to be a balance. And unfortunately right now our balance is not great. The scale's definitely tilted more one way than the other, for sure. But hopefully.
Yeah, and it comes from, a generation where we watched The Biggest Loser on TV, and a lot of the stories that are told of fat folks are weight loss and body driven.
Oh yeah, definitely. And also I feel like in the past few years, like with the rise of Ozempic and just different things like that, we kind of backslid quite a bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, GLP-1s are a hot conversation, and they're going to be for, unfortunately, quite a few years, especially now, like the first studies are coming out of the actual negative effects it has on folks who are taking GLP-1s who don't need them for medical reasons.
Yeah. I was like my doctor, a doctor that I saw, it wasn't my primary. It was just a random one because I couldn't get in to see my primary. I was there for pain because I've been dealing with chronic pain for the past like 5 months, which really helps with body image issues. I'll tell you that much.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But so I was there talking to her about that, and we got to the end of the appointment and I was like, oh my gosh, she hasn't brought up my weight. That's amazing. Like, because I expected them, because you go in and you expect they're immediately going to be like, it's because of your weight. You need to lose weight. And I'm like, I've been pretty much the same consistent weight for much longer than this period of time that I've been in pain. So I don't really think it's the weight. But she did bring up like those types of medicines. And she's like, oh, I don't think that your insurance will cover it. So maybe look into surgery. And just immediately, I'm like, this is the first time I've ever met you. And you're just like, surgery. Mm-hmm.
It is so unbelievably harmful.
Yeah.
It is so harmful. And that actually enrages me so much. I have shared that I went to a gynecologist. First time going to a gynecologist. I had moved to a new area, so I needed to get reestablished. And I go in and I'm in like the height of my eating disorder. Like my behaviors are extreme. And I sit down and the doctor basically tells me that I need to speak to a dietitian and that I need to lose weight. And it was so harmful. She didn't even ask me what I was eating or what I am doing to take care of myself. She just made assumptions. And that was really tough. It was really tough. It truly made me feel like I was nothing more than just my body.
Yeah. And it does make you feel that way. And that's something that I thought about during that appointment. I was like, she doesn't know whether or not I'm struggling with an eating disorder. Like the fact that you're just out here being like, you should get weight loss surgery. And then I told her, because I actually had a consultation the year prior for it. And I was like, I'm 24 now, but I was 23 at the time. I was like, I'm only 23. It's a whole surgery. If I really decide down the road that that's the path I want to take, then okay. But I was like, but I don't think that's for me right now. And I kind of told her that. And she was like, well, why don't you think of it as you're 23, so that means you have the rest of your life if you get this surgery. So even the fact that I was like, no, I've thought through this option. It's not for me. She was still like, but why not? And I was like, because yeah, I have not seen her since, thank God. Because I was like, this is the first time you've ever seen me.
As you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Everyone deserves to have a healthcare provider who takes the time to actually get to know them and their individual needs. And I have become so empowered by finding the right doctors that whenever I hear experiences about people with the wrong doc. I'm like, keep looking for the right doctor.
Yeah.
Do not go back to that person. I start now calling ahead and I ask all my questions. Are you a health at every size doctor? Do you prescribe weight loss? Like, I'll ask the questions up front. I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a great, I've never even thought to call ahead and be like, hey, are you fat phobic, basically?
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically, are you going to just prescribe me weight loss? Because I'm not interested. Yeah.
I will say that my main provider that I've had for a couple years, I love her. She's great. She never has been like, hey, have you thought about losing weight or seeing a dietitian or whatever? So I just couldn't get in to see her that time. And I was like, never again am I doing that.
And also, I think there's something in learning from the experience too. Like, okay, if I have to see someone who's not my primary care doctor, what can I say up front to say, like, no, my weight is not a discussion. Like, I'm not inviting you to have that discussion with me. I'm here to talk about X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm so bad at advocating for myself in the doctor's office. I've been trying to get better at it, but like, it's hard for me.
It's hard.
I get really anxious going into the doctor.
Yeah, that white coat syndrome is so real.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. But Kate also considered gastric surgery, didn't get it because I think at the time she was like, I just got engaged or whatever. So she's like, I don't think now's the right time. So she doesn't end up getting it. But Kate's, as we see in the show a lot, she unfortunately has struggled with like body image issues her whole life. One episode in particular that sticks out to me is the season 1, episode 4 called The Pool. When she's like,
I was going to say The Pool.
Yes. And they go to the pool as a family and she's so excited. She's in her like Care Bear bikini.
We are going to the pool, huh? Kate Pearson, you get in here and you strut your stuff, young lady.
That's right. Care Bears.
You know it. Today, people, we are going to debut the brand new Care Bear bikini.
And she's just excited to play in the pool with her friends. And these mean girls write a little letter on the napkin. I even wrote down what it said. It said, "We don't want you to play with us anymore. You embarrass us." And then they drew a pig on it and they signed it.
Hi. Hey, guys. You want to play mermaids? This is from all of us.
And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I hate how much I can relate to that episode because I was bullied so badly in grade school. I would say, honestly, that was probably the worst I was bullied. Junior high and high school were kind of, not kind of, a lot less. And
oh, wow.
It's crazy because little kids can be mean and they learn it from their parents. That type of meanness and bullying over someone's body, I feel like you have to learn. Obviously, you also learn it from like TV shows and like commercials and whatever, but like I feel like the parents have a lot to do with it as well. And so, yeah, grade school is not a good time.
I remember watching that episode and truly just feeling like the weight of it. Like the emotional heaviness of like that experience. I think unlike you, it got worse for me as I got older.
Yeah.
And I think I was really surprised to hear that elementary school was the worst for you.
Yeah,
because
it was not
high school.
It was not good. Yeah, I was like the tallest in elementary school. And I was also the biggest. And they used to call me Bigfoot all the time. Like all the time. So I was just like, I got called a whale in grade school. Like it was already starting. And it's crazy because you also see in that moment, I feel like Kate before that wasn't really conscious of her body and the way it was perceived. And then like as soon as that happens, you can kind of see it like click in her brain of like, oh, I'm supposed to be ashamed of how I look, which
Yep.
sucks so bad.
Yeah. So bad. And I hope that that episode as it is impactful to straight size folks as it is to plus size folks. Because to me, it was impactful because I felt seen.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, like that experience really represents things that I went through.
Yeah.
But I hope other folks watching it go like, that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we do better?
Yeah.
I often feel mocking someone's size is so easily accepted because people view fat folks like it's their fault that they're fat.
Mm-hmm. That's no one else's business but yours. And there's no reason that people feel so inclined to comment on it. Because that's one thing that drives me crazy. So I work in childcare right now. And I go back and forth between my answers when they bring up the way I look. Because a lot of it's just curiosity because it's like really like younger kids. And so I go back and forth between like, it's okay to look different. That's fine. And then some days I'm like, we don't need to comment on people's bodies. It's not yours to comment on. And I think both are true, but some days I just like don't have the patience. And I'm like, that's what we're not going to do today. Today's not the day to do that. So
yeah. Preschoolers can be super tough. Young kids can be tough because they are learning like what's socially acceptable and what's not. And I worked in childcare for a really long time, and kids often would be like, you have a big belly. And I'm like, I do have a big belly.
Yeah.
And you have a small belly. And I'm tall and you're short.
Yep.
And my hair's brown and your hair's exactly. And I was like, sometimes we don't want to comment on the way other people look because they can't change that.
It's hard to find the balance of that sometimes because I'm just like,
well, it takes a lot of emotional energy, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And then you have the other ones when they get older that are just, you're like, okay, you know better. Stop it. But it's crazy how at such a young age, we feel like it's okay for us to talk about how other people look. It's just so ingrained in our culture that bodies are like a commodity and something to be talked about like all the time. And it's crazy. And
do you think there'll be any cultural shift with that, with your generations?
I sure hope so. I feel like we're kind of like I said with the Ozempic stuff, I feel like we're kind of backsliding back into the 90s and early 2000s. Because I don't think it fully came back, but I heard rumors of heroin chic at one point recently, like a few months ago. I pray to God that does not come back because it's not healthy for anyone. But but I was just like, oh, I don't know. I really hope so. I just hope that each generation it just gets better. But right now, I don't know. Also with the political climate, it's kind of hard to be optimistic about things right now. Yeah.
I understand. It is very spicy in the world right now.
I made the mistake of reading The Handmaid's Tale recently, and I was like, that was a bad idea to do right now. That was not the choice to make right now.
You're like, gosh, I couldn't have waited 2 years for this one. Let things settle down.
You know what else is something that I've talked to my mom about, because Kate, as we know, grew up with Rebecca, and Rebecca, I would say, is more traditionally like fits into the beauty standard. And that's crazy how that dynamic works of like a skinny mom and a fat child. My mom is also fat, and so I didn't have that. But even then, she's told me about like how people would judge her and ridicule her for having a fat kid. like it's her
Yes.
neglect that I look the way I do, which is insane.
Isn't that insane?
Like, we got it. I swear, I feel like they just have to blame moms for everything. And I'm like, they're just trying their best.
Moms really do get just shit on.
And then
it's like, not only did their body literally create a human being and they take care of that human being, then people have to judge them for how that human being acts and looks. Like, it's just so crazy. Yeah.
It is. And then the dads are like applauded for babysitting your kid. I'm like, make it, why? And it's just always been that, like, we put so much on women, not just mothers, but, you know, women. And so, yeah, I can tell that Rebecca is very uncomfortable with how people perceive Kate. Because she tries to get her to, like, wear a shirt throughout the episode. And also there's that part where Jack's kind of talking to her.
T-shirt?
I didn't bring one.
I brought a t-shirt.
That's the one Mommy hates.
Oh, Mommy's just jealous.
I don't think so.
No.
And I go back and forth between, like, I wish he would have empowered her to not wear the shirt, and also, like, he's making sure that his child feels comfortable, which is an important thing. I'm like, I don't know what was the right choice in that moment. I think he did what he thought was right.
I think, I don't know if there is a right or wrong, you know, because gosh, parenting is so tough. And if I think about that situation, I think I see a parent wanting to protect their child from ridicule, right? Like, hey, people are staring at you. I don't want them to stare at you. Put this shirt on so they stop staring at you.
Yeah. Not even them staring, but how she's feeling. Because it's very obvious that she's feeling uncomfortable. Because she's, like, not talking. Her head is down. She's not wanting to go in the pool. She's not wanting to eat lunch. Like, he's just trying to make her feel better. So, yeah. Absolutely.
So I think this is when we're like, where's the gray area where you can provide the child with all of the information and let them make their own choice of, like, hey, yeah, your body looks different from theirs. That doesn't make it bad. It doesn't make it wrong. You know, and if you're feeling uncomfortable, that's okay. You can put a shirt on, but, like, let's do what you want to do to feel empowered and feel safe in your body.
Yeah. And I also love how he has this moment where he's like, you're a princess with or without the shirt.
And the traveler was so grateful. He wanted to repay me. He reaches into his little satchel and he pulls out this shirt. He said that when you wear it, your enemies will see you exactly as you want to be seen. And only that way. Whether it's a warrior or a princess, whatever you want.
I'm gonna go with Princess.
I want you to know Daddy already sees you that way without the shirt, okay?
Like he always sees her as, like, this beautiful, like, little girl, no matter what she's wearing or what other people say. And I'm just like, that's so sweet. That's how it always should be. Ugh. Jack and Kate's relationship is goals. I love their father-daughter relationship so much. I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's really special.
Yes. There is actually another swimsuit episode that I literally forgot about until about 30 minutes before we recorded this. And I was like, I need to go. I was, like, watching it on 1.5 speed so I could get through it so that I could talk about it. But it's in season 4. And it's when Rebecca and Kate are, like, on this retreat for Jack Jr. when they're, like, learning about his blindness and how to navigate the world and help him navigate the world. And Toby's a butthead and he stays home. And, but there's a part where, like, Kate has a little breakdown because she's talking about, like, how she's worried that Toby won't step up and that she won't be able to step up because of her size. And she's like, I've been having literally like a panic attack in my head all day about getting in a swimsuit and going in the pool. And Rebecca at one point, she's like, listen, you're fat. I'm ancient. We're gorgeous. We're getting in the pool.
He's supposed to be running around, right? Riding bikes and taking Jack to the pool.
Well, you can take him to the pool, too.
Mom, I've spent half a day having a panic attack about wearing a bathing suit in public without him. And I someday Jack is going to want to ride a bike. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that with him. And I don't know if Toby is going to want to.
Come on, get up.
What?
We're gonna go swimming right now.
What?
Right now. Where's your bathing suit?
Mom.
We are. Okay, I found it. Come on!
I'm not going swimming.
Kate, come on. You're fat. I'm ancient. We're gorgeous.
It's so good.
Oh,
And
I love
think,
that. I did not see that episode, but I love that.
yeah, I think it shows that they really go through an evolution in their relationship. Because I feel like it starts off very much that Kate feels like she can never be good enough for so many reasons, but a big one is like the way she looks. She's like, my mom could walk in a place and have like a million eyes on her and they all think that she's gorgeous. And I walk in the same place and it's like the exact opposite. And they can't like relate in that way. And so I think she feels judged a lot of the time, which is understandable. Because I think something else I had in my notes was like, also Rebecca's mom is that way with Rebecca. There's an episode where they like have her parents over for dinner and her mom is like nitpicking how much she's eating of things, which is insane because she's Mandy Moore. It just goes to show that like I mean it's worse for fat people, but like women of any size, it just it sucks.
This is where I think my question of like, do you think it will get better comes in? Because for me, I think in my family, some of it has been generational. And I do see like my grandmother is in her 90s and still still has very strong feelings about what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, how much you should eat. She absolutely makes comments. My grandmother is a toothpick. If she turned to the sideways in the wind, she will blow over. Like truly, the fact that she's worried about her size at her age, I'm like, girl, it's not possible, you
You're
know?
90.
And
like,
then I hear
chill
the way
out.
I know. Eat the whole brownie. It's fine. And then I hear the way she talks about food to my mom, and then I very much see how that was then passed off to me growing up. So I do think, you know, I have some hope with death to diet culture as a social movement, because I do think it is part of like some generational trauma. And I think that hopefully the younger generations can continue to break it.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like with each generation it does get a little bit better. For sure. It still doesn't get where I would like it to be, which I guess I was thinking more of like the ideal, like we no longer care what people's bodies look like. Leave them alone. But I do think it does get better with each generation, and I hope it does continue that way. Cause so with my mom, like with my family, pretty much, at least with the women, everybody's fat in my family. I'd say like 90%. And actually I kind of find like definitely the women talk about it, but I feel like sometimes the men in my family talk about it more. And I have to be like, but they talk about it in regards to themselves sometimes, but also in regards to the other women in the family. And I know that my mom, and I don't know if I'll keep this in because I literally love my uncle, but he, especially when he was younger, was not very understanding, and he still struggles with it, but he kind of like has learned to just leave it be. he used to comment on my mom's eating habits and weight like all the time. And so they have a really big age gap. So he is, I can't remember if him or my other uncle are the oldest, but him and my uncle are 19 and 17 years older than my mom. So she kind of grew up as an only child, and they were basically out of the house by the time she was old enough to remember anything. But when he was around, he was very critical about how my mom and her mom ate. And so it was, it's a whole thing with the men in my family.
That is a whole thing.
Yeah. And then most of the men on my dad's side are like rail thin. But one of them has diabetes. So like, again, it's not related to weight, babes. So.
Yes. My favorite thing, you can be healthy and unhealthy at any size.
Literally. I wish more people understood that. I really do.
Yeah.
And you can be gorgeous at any size too, as Rebecca.
I think
at
everyone has their own unique beauty. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And another thing that was said in that episode on season 4 was Kate was talking about how the pool and the water is like the only place that she feels weightless, and it's a place that she has avoided for majority of her life. And that kind of got me a little bit, because I was like, a place that like, if you're able to like drown out everything else, you feel like amazing, but you're so worried about how other people are looking at you that you just can't enjoy it, which really sucks.
Really sucks.
Yeah. I've been there with like different situations and stuff. So yeah, I definitely relate to that one too, of just like, it sucks when people's opinions ruin things that you want to do and enjoy doing.
Yes.
All right, well, that is all for part 1 of our episode on This Is Us. As always, please like us, rate us 5 stars. Please follow my amazing guest Alyssa at fataltbalt on TikTok and Instagram. You can also follow the podcast. You can follow me at Carolina Howie on all social media. Part 2 will be out next week. And until then, stay fat and fabulous. Bye.